Who were the most added players from this past weekend? Let's discuss on Fantasy Baseball Today Express. Welcome into FBT Express on Tuesday, June 10th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White. Let's take a look at some of the most added players off the waiver wire from this past weekend, Scott. And the two hitters at the top of the list, Scott: Addison, Barger, 64% from the Blue Jays, and Christian Encarnacion-Strand, 57% from the Reds. Both of these guys have been on a home run binge recently. I know they don't play the same position, but if you're just in a vacuum, who would you like more between Barger and Encarnacion-Strand?
Gosh, you're asking me to solve an impossible task here, Frank. I like whichever one is going to do better. How's that? So I guess I'd have to lean Addison Barger, all things being equal, because he's eligible at two positions, third base and outfield, two positions where you're more likely to have a need than first base. And because his data, you look at his baseball savant page, it's just everything is red, 90 to 100, and the percentile rankings. It's just the most perfect hitting profile you could ask for from a hitter. And now the production is beginning to match for Addison Barger. So I have, I guess, slightly more enthusiasm for him than Encarnacion-Strand, but Encarnacion-Strand has been a player who we've seen have success in the majors before. It was back in 2023, but he was a pretty big deal that year, even for what he did in the minors. Obviously, an injury-plagued 2024, his wrist was never right, and so maybe he gets a pass for that. Started off 2025 just as poorly, but came back over the weekend, homered each of his first three games back, and said he had gotten his timing down, that he wasn't, he was back to an up the middle approach and wasn't going to ground out as much, he felt like, because of it. Just seemed like he fixed something there with his swing, did Encarnacion-Strand. So I have hope for him too, particularly if you need a first baseman. But all things being equal, I'll give the edge to Barger.
Let's take a look at two catchers here. The White Sox promoted Kyle Teel this weekend, and Alejandro Kirk has been on a tear. He's hitting like 380 over the past month or so. Between those two and two catcher leagues, who do you like more, Kyle Teel or Alejandro Kirk?
So Teel probably has more upside, probably. And I like that all three games since he's called up, he started two at catcher, one at DH. It doesn't seem like, with Edgar Caro there, another catcher prospect call-up, it doesn't seem like there's going to be a major playing time crunch. DH spot is open for the White Sox. They intend to use it. So those are encouraging signs for Teel. I think I'd shoot for the upside. But Kirk has looked great. Last 34 games batting 381. I said that correctly. Last 34, 381 batting average. His expected batting average for the year is over 300. He's always had great contact skills. Only about a 10% strikeout rate this year. It's just he's hitting the ball harder. And we saw evidence of this last year, late in the year, after the Blue Jays had traded Danny Jansen, turned more at-bats over to Kirk. We started to see him come around. I think we're seeing clear evidence of it now. I don't think there's a lot of home run upside here, but I think it's a high floor for Kirk. If you're looking for batting average specifically, or in points leagues because the strikeout rate's so low, I think there's a high floor in that format as well.
All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll be back right after this.
I mean, can't you see it? The game is evolving. Records are breaking, and the stars are shining. Here on CBS Sports Network.
Welcome back in FBT Express, going over the most added players on CBS from this past weekend. Scott, two outfielders, I think more so in 5 outfielder leagues or category leagues. Jo Adell and Jesus Sanchez both have been heating up lately. Who do you like more between those two, Adell or Sanchez?
I'm going to lean. I hadn't looked at this beforehand, so you're just springing this on me now. I'm going to lean Adell, I think, because his expected stats are so impressive. And he tends to underperform his expected stats, but his expected stats have never looked like this. So he entered Monday with a 272 expected batting average, a 538 expected slug. That is 68th and 91st percentile, respectively. I will point out Jesus Sanchez's aren't that far off, and he has the better plate discipline of the two. Strikeout rate is down, the walk rate is up, both by 4 percentage points, basically. So significant change there for Sanchez. I think that's more likely to normalize than not. And so that's part of the reason why I'm not fully on board with Sanchez. But I think they're both worth rostering in 5 outfielder leagues at this point.
Mm-hmm. Let's get into the pitching side of things. The most added starting pitchers, we have Luis Ortiz from the Guardians, Chad Patrick from the Brewers, Mick Abel from the Phillies, and Bryce Elder from your Braves. I know a 12 strikeout outing last time that he pitched. Scott, how would you rank those 4? Ortiz, Chad Patrick, Mick Abel, and Bryce Elder.
Who Ortiz? What was the first name for Ortiz again?
Luis Ortiz from
Luis Ortiz. That's what I thought. So I know Ortiz just had a bad start on Monday. I do like how Cleveland has unlocked the strikeout potential. It just doesn't seem like there's much. That's my favorite thing a pitcher could do is strike guys out, but it doesn't seem like there's much else there for Luis Ortiz. So other than just he can miss bats at a good rate. So I'm not sure he's ever going to give us the consistency, the ERA, the whip we want. And so I think he's at the top of the list here, but it's not with a lot of enthusiasm that I say that. Elder, it's such an outlier event, the 13 strikeouts, and I didn't see a lot to really back up to explain why it was such a dramatic increase. So I think I'm just going to write it off as a fluke. Elder's going to come in third here, and the second name. It was the second name again.
There was Chad Patrick and Mick Abel.
Chad Patrick, yeah, Chad Patrick. Chad Patrick has been reliable, but in a way that's not really explainable by the data that I can tell. So it's one of those. He's been pitching deeper into games. He's been getting some quality starts, decent ERA and whip. You can use it if you have nothing better to use, because at least he's pitching well. But I don't know. You can't feel confident it's going to last. So yeah, Ortiz, Patrick, and then Elder.
Mick Abel, where would he fit into that mix?
Oh gosh, too many names at once, Frank. Abel would actually be number 1 because you're chasing the upside, and at least until he proves that he doesn't deserve to be rostered, he would be at the top.
All right. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to our full-length podcast, Fantasy Baseball Today, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today Express, and we will be back again on Thursday. Bye-bye.